Ashley Suzanne DeMarco, and I am here with Alex. And today we are talking about all of the different uses for the machine.
Yeah, including cleaning everything. So that's replacing cleaning products, that's replacing produce washing. The breadth of what the machine is used for when I first got into it is kind of mind-boggling, and I haven't fully grasped all of it yet. And that's what is my current progression with it.
I would say the best thing to do is to go through the 100 list use guide. I honestly bought a label maker when I first started this business, and I just went into every product in my under the sink. That's where we keep our cleaning products. And I went through everything and I just labeled, and I did the same thing for my parents. So when that Windex bottle was empty, they knew that they were going to fill it with 6.0. When their floor cleaner was empty, they knew they were going to fill it with 6.0. So it's like a progression of adding things every day, but eventually you get to a point where you just go right to the machine instead of going to the cabinet, to grab the hydrogen peroxide. You no longer have the hydrogen peroxide because you didn't buy it, because you don't need it. And you just use it for, the 2.5, this machine creates like hypochlorous acid, which is so strong. It kills microbes, viruses, bacteria, mold. So, anytime my kids fall or get a cut or anything, I'm immediately spraying it on there. If they have any sort of rash from swimming in chlorine or whatever, I just am constantly trying it first. So I always try the water first on skin stuff, or like Scott, my partner, had a toothache, and so I'm like, just try the 2.5, just keep putting it on it, and it worked. So my go-to is the machine, and then if we need to supplement other products, then we will, but I always try the 2.5, the 6.0, and the 11.5. I mean, for cooking, you just everything. I mean, if you're making sprouted lentil seeds, instead of using tap water, use the machine. If you're making teas or coffees or, your own broth, just use the water. And people are like, well, what water do I use? I just use what I drink, which I drink 9.5 primarily, because it feels good in my body. Now, if somebody's different than me, they might want the 8.5. It depends on your body and your diet and your lifestyle. And I don't eat very acidic to begin with. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink alcohol, but I love the way the 9.5 makes me feel. I'm still breastfeeding. I need that energy because I don't sleep at night. So I can attest to the 11.5 actually helping with both of my kids' sleep patterns. I give them a little shot of it before bed. So that 100 use guide that both Alex and I can send you, it literally has it broken down by water type, and then we can go even further by sending you a remedy guide that has it broken down by skin, hair, nails, vaginal care. It has all of it broken down in even simpler ways to use it. So I'd say if someone is first starting out, just go through that 100 use guide, mark everything in your pantry or your under your sink, and then if you want to go even further into the remedies, open that guide and just try the water first before all the other products that you have, because you're going to be able to gauge, okay, do I need to buy this facial toner again, or can I just use this that I already purchased? A lot of the time I find women are buying products specifically for their face that this machine already produces. Like the 6.0 is this perfect toner for your face. So it's hydrating, it doesn't dry you out, and the 2.5 cleans bacteria. So if you have a blemish or something like that, you don't need to buy super expensive face care products to have clear and good skin. I have the best skin I've ever had, and I literally just use the water to wash my face and the water to spray the 6.0 on my face every day. So
Yeah, off of what you said, the thing I had to come back to when thinking about all the products it replaces, especially for interacting with our microbiome and everything about our human organism, was Simpler is usually better. So most of the time, products have to do a combination of molecular chemistry and pull certain compounds from herbs. So there's a long experimentation process to figure out something that might work, opposed to this is almost like going to the source where you can just mess with the levels of oxygen and hydrogen and you don't need to introduce the complexity of the natural world because you have the raw building blocks. So it's kind of like cheating, and it's taken me a while to get into that mind frame where companies are really good at marketing. So it takes probably months of constant use to be like, I don't need that product. Because you think like Kleenex, there's certain brands that have become synonymous with products, but it's actually the service that you want. And it's taken me, I have to chunk it down to like dish soap or wiping something down instead of reaching, because that's a habitual response, actually, like you said, going for something labeled and then trying that first. And even the weird stuff that I use specific products for, like I grew up with less oil, heavy degreaser. 11.5 is pretty strong.
It is.
Yeah, so there's a lot of industrial scale, home grade products that, you just, the markets for them disappear when you can control hydrogen levels.
Yeah, and what's awesome is you can reuse that bottle, right? Instead of throwing that degreaser away, you just fill it with the 11.5 and then you use it in your oven and you use it on your stovetop. I mean, the 11.5 is so strong it emulsified like beet stains out of my daughter's dress. So, I mean, I have replaced all stain remover, laundry soap, you name it. And like you said, it's a progression. It took me about a year to get to the point, but now I'm at a point where I'm saving so much money every year because I'm not even buying white vinegar, which I know doesn't cost a lot, but it comes in those gallon containers, and I don't need it because I'm cleaning with the 2.5 every day. And I think what helps is also having the spray bottle right next to the machine with all 3 different types of water.
As little barrier as possible, so you don't have to think about it. If I have to think, just an extra step in my brain, the default pattern, so the gold to the old product will kick right back in. So like you said, as little barrier as possible, put it right in direct line of sight so you don't have to think about it.
And a lot of the times we're talking with one person in the household who's buying the machine, and we're having conversations. Like I had conversations with Alex, but Alex has a roommate. So not all the time is that what I share with him passed on to his roommate. So a lot of the time having a chart, which comes with the machine, that shows you all the different pages, and then I give everybody who buys a machine, it's so simple. It can literally just go up on your refrigerator until your partner and your kids start to understand how many things this can be used for. And again, it's rewiring your brain, because a lot of people are like, no, I'm not cleaning my hardwood floors with this water. I was told not to put water on my hardwood floors. This is direct experience with this. My mom has the most expensive hardwood floors. She buys this expensive cleaner, supposedly only made for those floors. She tried the 6.0, it works even better. And again, she already paid for the machine. So it's unlimited quantities. She doesn't have to go buy it again. And she just refilled that old bottle with the 6.0 and uses it for the floor. So it takes time. People love their mouthwash, or they love these products. And, I get it. We grew up with that. It's part of, like our hair, not our heritage.
Well, conditioning a little bit, but there's some deep-seated neurochemistry there, and it takes effort to rework it. And the replacing or putting in the exact same bottle is probably the best of both worlds. So you don't actually have to pay for it, but you also don't have to change a habit. You can still reach for the bottle. You just have the product for free. Now.
I want to come back to more simplicity. And if you're following either one of us, you know that a lot of the way that we live our life is coming back to those roots, those nature roots, gardening, being more sustainable. And, we live in a very consumeristic society, which tells us we need all of these things. And this home you're watching us in right now is a tiny home, and literally there will be no products other than this machine in this home. And when somebody wants to clean up something, there will be a spray bottle full of it. There's not going to be any options. So moving forward, there's not options for us to use other products because we don't buy them. They're not around. And that's taken us, this will be 3 years that I've had the machine. So it takes time. Again, we're changing so much of what our consumeristic habits are. You know, people go to the store and there's a whole aisle just dedicated to cleaning. You know, a lot of people are used to picking up something in that aisle at least every time they go to the store, and now you won't have to do that. So it's a reconditioning of our habits and really just saying, okay, I already spent the money on this. Like, how can I actually save money? Because I find a lot of the conversations you have, a lot of conversations I have, people want the water. They want to drink it. They don't even care that there's all these other benefits, right? And that happens to be the same very people that don't use it for all the other benefits. When I go into their house a year after they bought the machine and I'm like, why do you have all these products? And they're like, you're right, I should start thinking about it. So I urge you, the moment you get that machine hooked up, that you literally go through everything in your cabinet and you're like, okay, this can be replaced, this can be replaced, and just save money, because we ultimately want you to save money. We want you to save money on your farming products, we want you to save money on your house products, and we want you to come back to that more simple life of, you know, not having to have a cabinet full of crap. That one thing, it's just crazy. One product will replace so many things.
Our grandparents had that mentality. So whenever they had to make everything, it was simpler. They were more resourceful, and one thing did multiple uses. Like, people brush their teeth with baking soda, and the same formulas are still in the products today, just with like fluffing. So there's like a foaming agent, and but it's the same core principle behind the products. They've just gotten fancier or more aesthetic or anything like that. Packaging has changed, but a lot of the principles are the exact same as they were when our grandparents were around. And if you stop spending the money on all those little things because you've already paid for them, and you start spending it on better food or experiences, life starts becoming a little more richer, because the money gets transferred from things that have a one-time use to things that create memories, which is what most people, I think, want money to go for. Memories, experiences, family time, friend time, and not cleaning products or any products in general. Exactly.
And you know, if you're somebody who's trying to live a cleaner life, that the sustainable cleaning products that they call them the green products, are a lot of the time they're green wash, and they're not actually non-toxic. And they're charging you triple for it. So again, it's still coming in plastic. It's still contaminating the environment. Like, we're getting to a point where we're just eliminating all of that, and we're coming back to one machine, last 25 years, and again, can do so much. Yeah, I like that idea. We're going back to the way our grandparents used to live, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually like way more level on our nervous system to not have to feel like we need all of this stuff to live our lives. So
it's kind of the same principle, because I've been playing with nutritional principles in diet recently, and what I'm finding in myself is that most of the time it's boredom or I'm not in tune with my body. And that probably applies to a good amount of people, where just everyday food consumption is the same thing. We're used to convenience, to comfort, to different things ticking dopamine. It makes us feel good, but what our body needs is completely different and usually way more simple. So same principle. And what I'm still grasping with the 2.5 in that is, there are now just companies that are specializing in the same product that creates. So hypochlorous acid, I was linked a bunch of them from my microgreens business partner, our friend, and it took me like a month to figure out that there are entire business models using electrolysis and salt to create non-toxic cleaning products. And he kept telling me this, but it wasn't registering, and I was like, oh, we have that just there. So it replaces entire corporate business models. That's very powerful.
Yep. I mean, that's, I believe, why this technology isn't more prevalent, because it really has the capacity to replace a ton of products out there. And really, it's showing people that the water that's coming out of our tap municipality is not the best, and it's not giving us vitality. It's not absorbing into our cells. It doesn't have the hydrogen. It doesn't have all of, the structuring of this water. And so, the awareness that you start to gain when you drink this water, because I believe it's a process. I believe the purchasing of the machine is a lot of moving energy, and then once that machine is hooked up, it's a process of actually drinking the water. Because I have people who have sold machines to who don't even drink a liter a day, and I'm like, what's the point? I mean, you're just doing what you used to. So you still have to make I mean, even a liter a day of this is better than tap water. But I truly believe in what I've been researching, specifically with different scientists and medical doctors using this in their practices, is that a gallon a day, not for everybody, but I've seen a huge uptake in people's energy, their digestion, their vitality, and just their overall joy. Mm-hmm. Because they don't have time for the bullshit, because they're literally like spending their time and energy filling their own cup.
Right. Yeah, the energy is a weird thing when you don't think of water giving you energy, but if you go down to the molecular level, hydrogen is probably the most underestimated element in our body, and just its antioxidant potential and its role in metabolism in general. Our power producing cells, or organelles, mitochondria, basically run off of byproducts of hydrogen at that level. So if you increase your supply of absorbable water and then add dissolved hydrogen, the feeling that my roommate and my neighbor, who I didn't tell that I was giving him water for the first couple of days, I was taking his water bottle and just giving him the water, and they both used the same two words, and they said hydrated. It took them a little while to come up with that word because they couldn't think of anything better, and then buzzing. So it's kind of like a little hum of energy that wasn't there before. Mm-hmm. And that's your metabolism responding quickly, like within seconds, on a very deep level. And it's the same thing you can do yourself if you start doing like a breathwork practice, or you start getting outside more and getting more vitamin D. All of those built-in processes kickstart quickly, and usually people's stress levels and just life in general is too much, where those feelings are suppressed and we're just trying to get by. But if you start eliminating some of the toxicity and cleaning yourself up a little bit at that level, those almost euphoric feelings and that level energy becomes far more transparent, and that's amazing, because that's our baseline. That's what you're supposed to feel like without all of the extra bombardment, but it's harder and harder in modern society to feel baseline.
It is. And, like, I think of my mom's story, and she's one of those people that she can never stick with something. She'll try something for a week, and then it won't work, so she'll just give it up. And she has a whole closet full of supplements that she's never even used, because she just, it's that mindset thing. And all of a sudden, 3 months into drinking this water, again, she was probably drinking about a liter a day, so we're not talking about a ton of water. She lost 30 pounds. And all she did was change the water. And so because now she's lighter, like physically, she has more vitality. She started craving raw foods like fruits and vegetables more. Because the crap was able to be detoxed from her body, she literally lost weight, and now she's going off medications and things like that. So there's so many different, I love Alex's explanation of what's going on a cellular level for that energy, but if we want to just make it as basic as possible, we're literally removing the crap that doesn't serve us, and then actually absorbing the water. Because I drank spring water and Berkey water pretty much for the last 6 or 7 years before finding this technology, and I wasn't hydrated. I drank a gallon a day and I still had no energy. I would still take naps every afternoon. Now I have so much energy. It's almost like what do I do with it? I have 2 young children that keep me really, really busy, but I still have so much energy and I don't sleep. Like Alex sent me something about cortisol levels and not getting, sufficient sleep. I haven't had sufficient sleep in 6 years and I still have this amount of energy, and I never had this before. And I was doing all the things that they say, the breath work, the meditation, the yoga, the grounding, getting my feet on the earth, getting into nature, getting into the sunlight, eating 0 processed diet, no alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine. I still did not have the levels of energy that I have today. But I also make sure, this is my 3rd glass today. I make sure I drink 4 of these. And it truly is. Like when I'm feeling a little bit down, I'm like, oh, I need water. Whereas before, I would go get food. I would think that what that feeling was inside of me was that I was hungry. But now I try, even at night when I'm craving sugar, I'm like, okay, I'll allow myself to have it after I drink 32 ounces, and then I don't even want it anymore. Right. So it's just it's a tool, right? Like all of these things we talk about are tools, and our body is constantly wanting to come back into homeostasis, and this is a tool to get those antioxidants to lend electrons and really get you to an abundance level, so you feel that buzz, you feel that joy, and that is our base level. That is really what we should be feeling every day. But our society is just, we're working backwards, right? Like this is something we all felt at one time, and something happened, we went through something, and then the money, people every single day. I think the number one thing I hear all the time, over and over and over, is people stressing about money. And if you come back to the body, what does that affect first? It affects the root of who we are, our foundation. Because if we're not feeling secure financially, then that whole idea of having a home and food on the table, it's not really secure. So you're kind of throwing up that foundation of who you are, and that adds so much stress. And to be honest, I don't know if you want to touch on this, but I think stress is probably the number one killer of people. Yeah.
Stress is coming out as one of the at least corollary factors in almost all chronic diseases. And they're still working through that. It makes sense on just thinking about it level, but at a hormonal level, if cortisol is elevated, that triggers sympathetic pathway. So if your body thinks you're in danger, all other systems don't matter other than staying alive. So if you're chronically smoldering, instead of evolutionarily we're used to bursts of stress, so you are actually in danger, and that response is meant to get you back to safety, and then you come back down. Most people don't do this anymore. Most people stay high and just ride a wave, so hormones go out of whack. So if you can neutralize that stress at a molecular level, which is antioxidants' job, so drinking water, simply replacing that in your day-to-day, is giving you an order of magnitude buffer to deal with in your day-to-day level. Hard to avoid stress, so it's always going to be there. We mitigate it where we can, manage it outside of work and just lifestyle and everything. But that, just changing your water to this water, cancels out an entire factor of potential disease risk, if you want to think about it like that.
Definitely. And you're working towards prevention, right? Like a lot of us came to the health journey because of our own desperation, right? I came to the health journey because I was super desperate. I had tried all these things and nothing was working, right, for my mental health. And at the time, I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I thought when I was stressed, and this is what I was mirrored, this is what everybody else around me, my family, this is what I saw growing up, is when somebody was stressed, they would grab a beer. Or there was a huge thing when I first became a mom, like wine moms, like let's go drink wine together and talk about how shitty motherhood is, right? And it's totally shifted for me, because I don't ever go to grab anything other than water first. Like I said, when I'm feeling that sugar craving, I grab the water. When I'm feeling tired, I grab the water. When I'm feeling stressed, I grab the water. And I'm like, I communicate with it too. I'm like, help me in this moment, help calm my nerves, because at times, like you said, you're mitigating stress. Right. And as a mom of 2 young kids, and all the businesses that we're running, and a partner working full time, it's just, there's so much going on at all times that I'm having to manage in my head. And I think a lot of the times, women hold so much of the daily tasks. Like for me, it's like, okay, my son's on these 2 homeopathic remedies that he has to take 3 times a day. I'm the one that administers that. I have to remember that. So my mind has to stay clear enough and not be stressed and overcombobulated, overstressed to remember those things. And I find that nothing worked. Like I was doing ashwagandha, I was doing all of these Chinese medicine herbs before I tried the water, and now the water really is that thing that not only adds that vitality, but it adds that mental clarity. And I think that when it comes to stress, if you have a mental clarity and you have a clear vision of where you're going and what you're doing, especially if it comes to your job or your career, when you are stressed, you can take a moment to kind of look at it from a bird's eye view. Instead of being in that box and just kind of banging your head on the wall, you can kind of look down and be like, okay, what's my next step? And that's really what I think has added so much value to me as a person, to me owning a business, and to me being a mother and a partner, is that I remain clear even through the stress. And it's the most clear I've ever been. So I can see the next step amongst the chaos and then get there, and then next step and next step, because I really think that stress paralyzes people.
It does, yeah. Even researching something to buy. Everyone knows sort of analysis paralysis, which is like a benign version of that. You're not really responsible for anything. No one's gonna get hurt but just the choosing creates a mild amount of stress. So yeah, that everyone will know that feeling. And I think what I heard in you saying that is, because water is your fundamental element, like molecularly 99% of all cells in your body. By volume, I think it's the high 60s, low 70s, but on the molecule level, it's close to 100%. So if you're keeping yourself full, kind of like a gas tank, you have all of your faculties to draw from. And if you're stressed and you, like you mentioned, wanting to grab a beer, wine, food, just to mitigate some of that, most of that is just a stress response will just pull that out of you. It's just taxing, like your body needs resources to get through it. And then if you're focusing on water, you're literally just quickly refueling all of the water, and then maybe you'll make better choices about other things too, because you'll be less frantic maybe. But it's the quickest way to repair all of the damage. It's needed for literally everything. So it's kind of like cheating in life. It's just one simple thing. And the really cool part is I work with a lot of people with nutrition, and there's so many barriers, like you said, because there's conditioning from childhood, there's a lot of comfort, there's a lot of signals in your body. Water doesn't seem to have the same barrier. People just swap their water, no real hesitation, no real childhood trauma that pops up for them to get over or anything like that. It's, okay, I'll try your water. And then it's like leveling up.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to level up.
Yeah, and again, think about how much money I've saved on alcohol. Yeah. I've saved on, sugary foods. Like, I don't even crave that stuff anymore. Again, it takes time, right? And of course, there are nights that I crave chocolate, but for the most part, I really just drink water. And if I want something that tastes different than water, I add herbs or tea. I make tea, and if there's just so many different uses for it. Like cooking with it, I mean, it enhances the flavors of your food, so you're feeling more nourished from your food. Like, I truly believe that if we can learn our bodies and we can learn what stresses us out. So me being rushed stresses me out. So I try, if I need to do something in the morning, to prepare a lot of it at night. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to wake up earlier than I normally do, which I know I'm not going to do, I just prepare in advance. And so, you know, you can't do that for everything. Obviously, there's so many things that are out of our control, like traffic or something like that. But I just try to find the moments. And again, we can use this. It might sound woohoo or spiritual, but like, you can literally be like, okay, I really need to chill out right now. I really need to like, and as you're drinking the water, imagine yourself just chilling out, relaxing, calming down. And it's really a tool that I can use, and the communication of what this then becomes me. And then it's this secular nature. And now that I'm in the garden and seeing how things grow, and just learning about memory and the structure of our DNA and where memory is stored. I mean, so much of these traumas and these things that stress us out are past traumas, and they're things that, you know, like our mom might be somebody that stresses us out, right? But it's like past conditioning where she might not even be doing something that stresses you out, but your past conditioning is coming up. So I just believe that you can literally use this water to go back into certain memories and really restructure them to be something that, you know, you felt safe. And you know, there's so much.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, people might have heard of omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids. It's the same kind of thing. The research is there, which is why it's been accepted by most people. The research isn't there on sort of how the quality of water affects things at that level. But if you want to correlate it to like a higher omega-3 ratio, which is less inflammatory, omegas make up most of the gray matter in your brain. So if you have a higher quality omega ratio in your brain, obviously things will be a little more fluid, you'll have a more rapid response time, cognition will just work better. There's no difference between that, and that's way more important because it's more saturated everywhere molecularly, and there is a good amount of data and research being done on sort of the information fields around water. And fourth phase of water is one of those substances that science hasn't really fully pinpointed or understood yet, because we stopped at, oh, we got it, it does these three things. Didn't really dig any further because funding, or no one was interested in the pure curiosity or science. Now there's data coming out about it, so sooner rather than later you'll have some very probably influential doctors, and all it takes is for one of those influential people to write a book, and then everyone all of a sudden understands. Dr. Joe Dispenza does a fantastic job of this for, like you were talking about, early childhood conditioning and food. He brings it down to, he's a quantum physics level understanding of how situations trigger emotions, and emotions always correlate to a chemical response. So if you don't want to go with the woo-woo aspect of emotions and trauma stored in the body, he's like, great, these correlate to biochemical reactions and they have to go somewhere. You can understand this if you look to the natural world. Like if ducks get angry, they'll either fight and then they'll flap the rest of the energy away. We don't do that. Men sometimes do that with aggression, where it's done at the end, but most of the time we don't have the option of doing that. So those chemicals don't just leave, they get shoved someplace. Usually stored away because they're damaging. Your body will package things around them, and then when you start a detoxification or a healing process, you get to deal with those. So it's all of those elements wrapped in one.
But you can't truly be vital without healing these things that come up. And again, I feel like we're on this secular path, right? So I could still address something that was a trauma in my past, and I come at it from a new angle, and I'm constantly spiraling. It might not affect me as much now as it did 5 years ago. It's still there to an extent, but I'm seeing it from a new lens. And I have gone through many layers of that healing, because I do believe, like you said, it's packaged, it's stored, it's protected. So there's definitely layers upon layers of things that you're working through to kind of release and move through it. Because I think the most important thing, and what I've learned having a son, because I'm very feminine, I want to just like sit in meditation and be very still and listen and, you know, ground in, whereas my son just very active, and he's like you said, like that flapping, that energy just constantly needs to move from his body. And instead of being like, no, you're not allowed to scream, or no, you're not allowed to do that, I literally take him outside and like scream into this pillow, punch the ground, like move the energy, because I really do believe now that I'm clear in my mind, I can see, okay, this is what I wasn't, nobody held the space for me to be this when I was a child. How can I shift these ancestral patterns now for my children so that they don't have to go through the same mental and emotional, you know, challenges that I went through because I wasn't able to express. And honestly, there's no, like, it's no bang on my parents. They just didn't know. And again, they were raised in a world where you sit still, you are quiet, you don't make a peep, and you know, it's all about, for women back then, it was all about being the good girl and, you know, not stirring up any crap. And so I really believe, you know, if we can get people drinking this water, consuming this water on a regular basis, and they, you know, they haven't yet had kids, or they have kids, they're just a more clear channel for how to raise children in a way that is less stifling, less traumatic to the human body. Because like Alex said, we need to move energy. Like if there's something that happens, we need it to move out of our bodies. And you see, you know, somatic trauma healing is about moving the body. I mean, I'm trained in yoga, and we did trauma healing, and literally the body shakes when something is being released, and that people are terrified of that, but that's actually super, super good for the body. So I think a lot of the things that we're learning through having a clear channel are just things that maybe we're remembering that have always been there, but have had, you know, so many layers of conditioning that it wasn't right to do that, or it, you know. So and then especially when it comes to men, like think about the masculine and how like that energy was portrayed as something that was heroic if you were aggressive and you punch things, whereas like instead of teaching men how to channel it through breath work or how to channel it through another means of like martial chi,
discipline, control, it's going to come out some way, but that some way can be productive. You can further your education and some learned skill. The energy is a blessing and is going to happen. It's almost a tool. It's the precondition. It's just how it's applied. If it's used for a destructive end or used for educational or any of those productive forms. So the question we always get is, why magic? So they've been around for forever. How many years exactly?
40.
Oh, your birthday party soon. They're the leaders in the field for ionization for electrolyzed reduced water. That's what the machine actually is. It is an electrolyzed reduced water machine. Basically just means using electrolysis and creating reduced, which is a synonym for antioxidant, hydrogen-rich water. But why this company and their technology? There are plenty of other names in the game, some more recent, some a little older, but you've had more experience with the tech, so why magic?
So I actually started 3 years ago, and when I first started this company, there was a woman who had 6 engineers come in and take apart 5 machines. They started with the K8, and then they worked their way through all of the other competitive ionizers out there. And after they took apart the machines, all 6 of those engineers went and bought a Nagix machine. Why they did that? They said the ingenuity was the best they've ever seen in terms of a water device. They had never seen that level of expertise. And when you look at every other ionizer company, they outsource all of their material. Whereas in Nagix, everything on that machine is made in one warehouse. It's called OEM.
Original equipment manufacturer.
And that is a huge, like, indicator of a successful business, because can you imagine how much extra it costs to make everything in-house? The reason people outsource is because it's much cheaper for someone in Mexico to make a part than it is maybe here in the United States. So these products are made all in one warehouse. One set of hands makes one machine from start to finish, and they actually test it 27 times from start to finish. They also use stainless steel titanium plates, double dipped in platinum, which is the same materials that medical equipment are made out of. And Enagic's system of adhering the plates doesn't allow like residue to build up in there. They've just had the best ingenuity in terms of building a machine. Specifically this model, this K8 model, I believe is the best one in our lineup because of its ability to self-clean, its ability to get into the settings manual and change like your level of pH. So, you know, I have groundwater and he has tap water. So our base pHs are different. And in other machines and other companies, there's no way to change that base pH, whereas this model specifically, you can. Another thing about Enagic specifically is that they are the only company that allows you to send your machine in for what they call a deep cleaning. It costs $40 and it literally take apart the entire machine. They make sure there's no wear and tear on the parts, and then they put it all back together and send it to you. You know, that to me shows a level of just expertise and commitment and professionalism, because we've called other ionizer companies and said, you know, you have a lifetime warranty here. You know, what happens if something breaks, and or what happens if we want you to look at our machine and deep clean, and they don't do that.
It's a lot of fine print, as you'll come to find, stipulations on the what will void a warranty, and like hard water use.
Well water. My
Right.
water would have voided the warranty of another ionizer, so.
Yeah, so there's a lot of marketing, and every company uses marketing, and Enagic's no different. They don't do it as badly because we do the marketing and they're very clear on what they are providing, what they claim it does, and they don't make any outrageous claims. Most of the outrageous claims you hear are from other interesting people like ourselves that are just trying to sell units, but Enagic as a company is very thorough, very precise. I mean, it started as a medical machine before it became a consumer grade machine. So if you're working in that industry, this is exactly what it does. These are the parameters. This is the maintenance required, and it can last 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, the engineers actually said that these machines will last 35 years. So, you know, and again, we want the best plate technology. We don't want metals leaching into the water because we're trying to remove that from the water. We don't want the plates to deteriorate over time either. And so medical equipment doesn't deteriorate over time. These plates don't deteriorate. Again, we have a process of cleaning it. And Enagic's very clear that if you continue with that process of the e-clean every month, for this machine specifically, we request an e-cleaning once a month. Other machines, we request it 2 times a month. So again, we're coming back to the simplicity. I believe the K is the most simplest, the most medical grade water machine on the market. And if you want to talk about Enagic as a whole, they never have sales. They never have gimmicky, like, oh, it's Christmas, we're going to do 25% off. Like, if you look at the most expensive car companies in this country, they don't have sales because they're not looking for people who want the sales. They're looking for people that know the product is good and they will pay the cost of it. And actually, these engineers were very impressed at the price tag. They said this is a medical grade device that can be used in a hospital, and if you were selling it to a hospital, it would be 20 grand for the same device. So we're talking about a company that really goes above and beyond to certify that this is the best product, and also that level of security that you have, like, I want to make sure, I'm doing the e-cleanings, but I want to make sure this thing is going to last 35 years. I'm going to send this once a year for a deep cleaning, and I have that capability. I have the option.
I compare it to a Japanese car. Like, I bought a Toyota for that same reason. You don't expect it to maintain itself. The entire promise with like a Japanese car specifically is that this engine can last 400,000 miles. You have to maintain it when we tell you to. If you follow the engineer's guidance, it can last a generation. It's the exact same thing with Japanese engineering here. Is the parameters are very specific. It can do amazing things and it can last a very long time, but you have to be diligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Like our cars, we get an oil change every 2,000 to 3,000 miles. It's the same thing with this water machine. And, the reason why I love this one specifically is it self-cleans after every 5 gallons. It's running the water the opposite way over the plate. So again, you want the best water possible because you invested in this technology. So I do believe that Enagic has that option. And one other thing I wanted to mention that a lot of people don't think of is public versus private. Most companies, when they get to a certain level of profit, they go public because they want, investors and shareholders. And that's just kind of the business model of the United States, just more. Whereas Enagic is still private. And it's 48 years of being a private entity, which I think is just incredible. And the same person who started the company, Oshiro, still owns the company. He's 80 years old. He looks like he's 50.
Sure.
And just the level of what we're creating with Enagic. You don't see any other Ionizer communities going out and, cleaning up the oceans and, trying to save the turtles. Really, every person that I've met who's actively sharing about this water within specifically to Enagic, they're on another level of just sustainable health. They're not, it's a community,
right.
And it's a family. And what we're a part of is something called Evolutionary, which is worldwide. We've got Bali to Maui and everywhere in between. And so, another thing that I like to mention that people don't even really realize is that this water also comes with a community of support, which most other ionizer companies don't really have that. They don't have the history, and they want to make money, whereas Enagic makes money, but their main goal, if you listen to anything Oshiro says, is really to build that network and that community. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have people to share your joy with, then what's really the point? So I think there's so many different factors and layers as to why this is the best one on the market. And again, if you're going to spend $3,000 on Amazon one, that only lasts 10 years or maybe even 2 years. I've had friends that spent $3,000 on a machine that only lasted a year. So not a Enagic's machine, but I suggest, the $5,000 price tag, it will last. You listen to us and take care of it like we suggest, then you're going to get the best product there is out there.
And going back to the community, I didn't know this was a thing. Water sharing is a thing, apparently, and I am now doing it all the time. So I bring water with me wherever I go. People leave jugs on my doorstep, and I fill them. And there's a map. I will put the map below, as well as the link to learn more about the water. But there is a map of the United States, at least, with any of our members who were okay with their location being shown. You can go get the water. I spoke to a couple gentlemen in Oklahoma the other day about farming. They wanted to try it, and they found someone 20 minutes away. So the people in the community are truly about sharing the water, and water sharing is a thing now. So it's easier than you think to find it. I drank it for a year before I got my own unit from my microgreen business partner. And sometimes it takes that embodiment of it and starting to assimilate the water into yourself before you're like, okay, this is real. But make the decision for yourself. But the breadth of the community will tell you that it's very real.
Yeah, and I told him, you're going to become a watering hole.
Yeah.
And what do you think of when you think of a watering hole? You think of all nature's animals, whether it's a monkey or a tiger, they're coming there, and that's the neutral space. And that's the space where I believe, like, you know, we come to that space of homeostasis, that place of inner peace. And sharing water, you know, you work a lot of supplements too.
Yeah.
Like, those bottles that you buy aren't cheap.
Right.
And there's a finite amount, right? You can't just give it away all the time. Just like essential oils, that bottle is this big, you know? You work with essential oils, you can't just give that product out all day. But this is something you can. It's unlimited. There's no cap to how much water you can share. I mean, I literally had people, revolving door when I first moved here, just, hey, come try the water, just like Alex is doing. And it's really a great way to network and meet people and connect and share this living substance. And this website that he's talking about is next level, because the people on there, they put their stuff on there knowing you're gonna you're gonna find them and ask them for water. And that's really, like Alex said, that barrier of entry. If you're like, oh, I really want to try it, well, there you have it. You have hopefully somebody near you that you can try it.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So like we mentioned, links are below this. If you want to learn more, contact us, ask about a certain experience, bounce anything off us, because we're constantly learning more and expanding every day, and we just love chatting about it. So feel free to reach